Welcome to the December 2018 College of Education Commencement and Recognition of Teacher Education Program Completers. I am Dan Clay. I am the Dean in the College of Education. I want to extend an especially warm welcome to the families of our graduates and the Teacher Education Program Completers. I know the room is filled with parents, grandparents, sisters and brothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, and people you probably never met. But we're so pleased that you're all here to help us celebrate and to bear witness to the important milestone accomplishment of the ones who've completed our program. We are most privileged and grateful to have been a part of their lives for the past few years. The entire university community shares in your pride and in your happiness on today, this very special day. Allow me to acknowledge the many people assisting us with this commencement ceremony today. Please stand and remain standing as you are introduced. Our sign language interpreter is Scotty Van Isingham. Representing the university's central administration and conferring the degrees, President of the University, Bruce Harold. Assisting me with the celebration on stage today from our College of Education is Nancy Languth, Associate Dean for Teacher Education and Student Services, and Amanda Hartling-Tyne, Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and Graduate Programs. Please join me in thanking these individuals who are supporting this effort today. In addition, we recognize all of our faculty and staff who've contributed in so many ways to our students' success through teaching, academic advising, supervising field experiences, and other services throughout these teacher candidates' time in our college. Whether seated or on stage before us, please stand so that we can recognize you all. Our staff, please, and faculty. Thank you. I am pleased to introduce today's commencement speaker, Dr. June Jake Chung. Dr. Chung is a 1996 graduate of the University of Iowa, where he received his bachelor's degree of arts in education. He has also completed 2 master's degrees and recently his doctorate degree in leadership at National Louis University. He's taught in Texas and the greater Chicago area, having won numerous teaching awards. After serving as an elementary principal for several years, he is now the assistant superintendent for personnel and planning in Arlington Heights School District in the Chicago area. Dr. Chung is truly a champion for education. He is an advocate for marginalized students, and he believes that all students deserve to realize their dreams. And the way he lives his personal and professional life is a testament to that. He provides students with clothing, food, educational opportunities, and the commitment of a Hawkeye teacher that truly cares. That's what Hawkeye teachers do. He is on many boards, including our College of Education Advisory Board, and he's held numerous leadership positions in school leadership, too many to mention here. But graduates, most importantly, he hires Hawkeye teachers. So I would suggest that right after this ceremony, you hunt him down and ask him for a job. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Jake Chung.
Dean Clay, thank you so much for that kind-hearted introduction, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to address our newest educators. Good afternoon, graduates, parents, faculty, friends, and loyal Hawkeyes. It's an amazing day to be a Hawkeye. It is such an honor to deliver the commencement address for the class of 2018. Congratulations on your remarkable achievement and let me be one of the first individuals to welcome you into the field of education. I'm so proud of you and for the positive impact that you will bring your students. About a year and a half ago, a nationwide teaching shortage was announced. And now more than ever, we need teachers like you in the classroom ready to make a positive difference in the lives of our students. Our students need you to share the Hawkeye spirit you've cultivated here at the University of Iowa. John F. Kennedy once said, "One person can make a difference, and everyone should try." You are about to enter an amazing profession where you will have the chance to make a difference by leaving a positive imprint on a student's life. Okay, at this point, I'm looking for a little audience participation. By a quick show of hands from our graduates and our audience members, how many of you remember an amazing teacher that positively impacted your life? Awesome. That teacher was pretty awesome, right? I have no doubt that those of you sitting before me will strive to become an educator who possesses similar qualities and skills to the teacher that you just remembered. You're ready to start making a difference in the lives of your students by doing amazing things, and I can't wait for your journey to begin. If you had told me in the fall of 1991 that I would be standing before you to deliver the commencement address, I probably would have said that you needed to grab another beverage at the airliner. I was a freshman in 1991 at the University of Iowa, and I would have never thought that I would be bestowed such an honor. You see, growing up, I was that kid. In your practicums and curriculum and observations, who was going to give you a run for your money. Behind a goofy smile, appearing to be engaged in learning, little did you know that my mind was running 110 miles per hour with ideas of how I was going to disrupt your lesson and wasn't focused on what you were trying to teach me. In hindsight, I viewed this as multitasking. But in essence, I was the class troublemaker. The years from kindergarten through 12th grade, in fact, were filled with numerous parent-teacher conferences, with the consistent central theme from teachers insisting that I needed to channel my energies to reach my fullest potential. To give you a quick comparison, I made Dennis the Menace look like an honor roll student. I was a student who talked a fellow kid in my school to lay down while I created a bike ramp to jump over him with my bike. It didn't go well. How many of you have seen the movie The Breakfast Club? Audience, that was me. I had a Saturday detention the Saturday before my high school graduation. I even had a couple of minor discretions here at the University of Iowa, like making paper airplanes out of the Daily Iowan and throwing those paper airplanes toward the Iowa River from the 11th floor of Slater during finals week. I was written up for that one, and it still might be in my permanent record somewhere here at the University of Iowa. If you had an opportunity to talk to my mother, the list would go on and on. While I tended to get into a lot of trouble growing up, the one common denominator was terrific teachers that took a special interest in me, and these individuals helped to shape my life. I was fortunate to have many amazing teachers that were there to support me throughout my years, and I wouldn't be where I am today without these incredible educators. Today, I'm going to spend a short time talking about my journey and the teachers that made a difference in my life. This journey is broken up into several chapters, and these chapters will focus in on several influential, life-changing teachers who transformed me. In order to further understand who I was growing up, I have to take you back to the late 1960s and talk about my parents. My father, Nak Yong Chung, immigrated to the United States to seek a better life for himself and to seek out the American dream. He came to the United States with a few $100s, and one of his first large purchases was a camera. Why a camera? Well, it was necessary to assist him in finding a wife. My father's parents and my mother's parents set up an arranged marriage. An arranged marriage is pretty unheard of these days. My father had never met my mother prior to their wedding day, but he wrote her letters and sent pictures of himself. he sent pictures of himself in front of a Cadillac, fostering the thought that he was really rich. The only problem was the Cadillac wasn't his. My dad was pretty smart, right? I was born a few years later, and because my father wanted to continue his pursuit of the American dream, he decided to move us to Chicago. It wasn't their fault that we moved because they were doing the best that they could. As a child, I remembered and experienced a number of times when money was really tight, times where my parents debated if they had enough money to buy a Christmas tree, or memories of wanting a toy so much but not understanding that my parents didn't have enough money. I had the experience of living with my parents and my sister in a one-bedroom apartment, which socially didn't foster a setting for which friends would want to come over. I spent many hours alone by myself as my parents worked diligently to provide us that American dream. While I didn't always understand what they were doing or why they worked such long hours, it helped to instill the incredible work ethic that I have today. As Yoda would often say, do or do not, there is no try. I went to 2 different schools for kindergarten, and the school that I went to in first grade closed at the end of the year. I remember my parents challenged with understanding with what they needed to buy on the school supply list, and I felt so embarrassed when I felt my parents asking me to translate for them. Even at an early age, I just wanted to fit in, and I didn't want to stand out. First grade was the beginning of my clown antics and trying to be the center of attention at all the wrong times. There was this time when we received brand new rain gauge breakers. They were so sleek, and we got to use them and also take them home and measure how much rain was coming down. I used my new beaker to prop up my desk, and as you can imagine, it once again didn't end well, and it cracked that rain gauge. I still remember the scolding I received for making a bad choice. I had to use masking tape to fix that rain gauge, and the newness of the rain gauge darkened quite a bit for me. But by the end of the day, I had traded my cracked rain gauge with someone else in the class. I think I gave him a cookie during lunch hour. Even back in first grade, I was still a pretty good negotiator. Throughout the year, I continued to hear that I didn't apply myself, and I found myself in the lowest reading group. I remember sort of giving up, and it wasn't until second grade that my life changed. The next chapter in my life was really important to me. Mrs. Stryka was my new second grade teacher at John Jay Elementary School. I remember her compassion and warmth, which made me feel so special. I could tell that she believed and encouraged and really took a general interest in me. I started the year in the lowest reading group, but after completing some assessments, she pulled me aside one day early in this school year and said, "Honey, you're not in the right group." She handed me 2 different sets of reading texts and told me that she knew that I would read the 2 reading texts at home on my own and that I was going to be moved up to the highest reading group. My confidence was beaming, and I was raising my hand at every opportunity to answer questions. Learning was so exciting, even at that young age. I wanted to and was very motivated to put forth my best effort for her, and when I did, I flourished under her guidance. For the next year and a half, I thrived as a student. We moved a year and a half later, and the next few years of my school reverted to some pretty uninspiring years. I was one of 35 students in the class, and it was easy to get lost. Instead of channeling my energies into academics, I reverted to being the class clown. I was the kid who stopped going to Saturday Korean school in 3rd grade, but had taught all my friends at Solomon Elementary School in Chicago how to swear in Korean. I thought it was pretty cool until a fellow Korean classmate told the teacher. That parent-teacher conference focused on me not fulfilling my potential, and I had my first D showing up on my report cards. I couldn't connect with the teachers, so I chose to create my own learning. I think I was the only kid in 4th and 5th grade who would watch the local and nightly news for 90 minutes straight. The local news at 5, the world news at 5:30, and the local news again at 6 o'clock p.m. Wheel of Fortune, of course, at 6:30 p.m. I became an encyclopedia of local and world events, and it drove my love of history. The Merriam-Webster dictionary defines a teacher as someone that teaches. What it leaves out is that a teacher displays empathy, compassion, kindness, and is an awesome learner who puts in endless hours. A teacher looks at the whole child and is not swayed by previous reports or viewpoints from others, but rather takes the time to investigate, question, and come up with their own conclusions regarding a student's skills and potential. By the time I was in 6th grade, I had attended 6 different elementary schools, resulting in a thick cum file from moving from multiple schools on a yearly basis. I'd make friends, and then we'd move. The teachers would get to know me, and then I would be gone. We made our last major move in the beginning of 6th grade, and I was blessed to have several outstanding teachers who believed in me. We ended up in Glenview, Illinois, and my parents had achieved the American dream. Their hardware store business was finally thriving, and we finally purchased a house in the suburbs. I remember my first day at Glen Grove School, having the receptionist ask me to describe myself as a student. I said I was an okay student, and she placed me in Mrs. Powers' class. Mrs. Powers was a funny teacher who was filled with warmth, compassion, and encouragement. My impression of being an okay student continued until I took a battery of assessments. And I remember Mrs. Powers telling me that I was going to be placed in the highest reading group, and I was also going to be placed in the gifted program. In the 3 previous years, I read a grand total of only 5 books on my own. My new school had a phenomenal library, and my library media teacher encouraged me to read daily. I read over 200 books during that year. I discovered incredible authors like Dahl and Bloom, Cleary, Fitzgerald, and many others. During my 6th grade year, I had once again found teachers who believed in me, and I once again thrived. I found myself loving school and feeling empowered to do my best. My middle school years were pretty successful, and I found myself surrounded by teachers that wanted to bring out my best and challenge me to succeed. High school was more of the same. I found myself surrounded by incredible teachers who empowered me, found time to listen to me, and cared enough to guide me. Mrs. Dell Kennedy, Mr. Pete Pappas were just a few of the teachers that helped guide me, even when I found myself in trouble, like when I had the Saturday detention the day before graduation. Nevertheless, these teachers believed in me. In 1991, I started my freshman year at the University of Iowa. I was filled with energy and enthusiasm, and I was ready to conquer the world. I joined the rowing team and fell in love with the University of Iowa campus and the Iowa City Sunsets. I participated in political activities, and I even joined a fraternity. Encouragement from the University of Iowa faculty members like Nancy Humbles, Valerie Garr, Mary Peterson, and others actively sought out various leadership opportunities throughout my time here at the University of Iowa. During this time, I realized that I had a passion for working with students, and it was then I decided to become a teacher. That work was some of the most rewarding in my life, and the College of Education had some of the most progressive professors. Dr. Beatrice Ferner was light years ahead in her own understanding of literacy and writing, and individuals like Dr. Rahima Wade, who championed the love of social studies and social justice issues, helped to solidify my values and my desire to support the most marginalized students. The College of Education, students, professors, and experiences at the University of Iowa built the foundation of who I am today. I student taught and worked in Aldine, Texas, in an inner city-like school. My experiences both in and out of the classroom at the University of Iowa provided me the confidence to work anywhere. The students in Aldine, Texas were so important to me and assisted me in defining my understanding of how to work with all students. Teaching all of these students led to me receiving the Sallie Mae First Class Teaching Award for the state of Illinois in 1998. This award was a direct reflection on the great teachers in elementary and secondary years, as well as the amazing faculty here at the University of Iowa. The amazing foundation that my teachers helped me to create are a direct representation of who I became: student, teacher, assistant principal, principal, assistant superintendent, loving husband, and proud father. I wish you nothing but the best as you begin your teaching journey. It will be filled with many emotional moments where you will celebrate the students' accomplishments, and there will also be other times when you are questioning why you've entered the teaching profession. You may find yourself with tears of joy, or at other times crying with frustration. During the most challenging instances, draw on your inner strengths and remember the teacher that impacted you the most. One of my favorite TED Talk videos is from Rita Pearson, and she states that every kid needs a champion. Remember, you are that champion. You are a teacher who will never give up on your kids. So as you move forward with your journey, live your life with integrity, empathy, and compassion. Always remember why you chose to enter the teaching profession. Find ways to empower your students. Plus, hang lots of Hawkeye swag in your classroom so they understand what it means to be a Hawkeye at an early age. Find ways to make a difference in the lives of the students that you will teach. Your difference will be a life-changing event, and they will recognize that they will need you. Finally, remember, once a Hawkeye, always a Hawkeye. I'm totally confident that this group of graduates seated before us this evening are destined to do great things, which we will witness, and we will also listen and find that their experiences will come to us in the near future. While your journey at the University of Iowa is just about to end, the countless opportunities that will be presented to you will enable you to make lifelong differences in the lives of your students. In essence, one part of your journey has ended and another part is about to begin. As I leave today, remember that you have the power to change lives and that it's great to be a Hawkeye. Congratulations, class of 2018. This is your day.
Thank you, Jake. Each year, our students are asked to nominate a faculty member they feel made a significant impact on their learning to share an address with us. This year, our students selected Professor Greg Hammett as their faculty speaker. It's my honor and pleasure to introduce Professor Hammett this afternoon. A proud Chicago native, another one, Professor Hammett earned a bachelor's degree in history and social studies education from Northwestern University. He began his career in education by spending 15 years as a history and social studies teacher in Chicago area secondary schools. After earning a master's degree and a PhD from The Ohio State University, Professor Hammett joined the faculty of the College of Education at the University of Iowa, where he's been a professor of social studies education for the past 24 years. In the Social Studies Education program, Professor Hammett has taught teacher education courses, a course on infusing global perspectives into the curriculum, and seminars on the history and foundations of social studies education. In addition, Professor Hammett has served for many years as program coordinator for the Social Studies Education program and currently serves as the program coordinator for all of the secondary education programs in the Department of Teaching and Learning. In his spare time, Professor Hammett serves as the coordinator for international students and programs in the College of Education and serves the university as associate director of the University of Iowa Center for Human Rights. He holds a complementary appointment in the university's international programs and serves on the International Students Bachelor's Degree Advisory Committee. His research interests lie in the study of democracy as a cross-cultural concept and pre-service field experiences in social studies education. On a personal note, I want to say that Professor Hammett has been a tremendously supportive mentor and colleague to me throughout my career at the University of Iowa. Greg's door is always open to students and faculty alike. He'll always greet you with a smile and welcome you to talk about teaching, education, history, politics, and the Chicago Cubs. Finally, all of those in the College of Education know that Professor Hammett served as the faculty sponsor for our teacher education convocation for 17 years, organizing speakers, serving as master of ceremonies, keeping everyone in line, and generally running a very tight ship. I'm so thrilled that he will have the chance today to participate in the ceremony that he made so special for so many years as our faculty speaker. Everyone, please welcome my friend and colleague, Professor Greg Hammett.
Okay. Well, how do you follow that, huh? Thanks for those kind words, Amanda. President Harold, Dean Clay, faculty members, family, friends, and especially our students. Thank you for this high honor in being chosen as the faculty speaker for the fall 2018 commencement. As Associate Dean Tyne noted, I had the honor to serve as the faculty sponsor of this event's first iteration, the Teacher Education Convocation, for 17 years. Serving as the Master of Ceremonies, I heard many, many great speeches. I was glad that I didn't have to give one. Now, however, you've put me on the spot. Virtually every one of those speeches began with a joke or humorous story. Subtly woven into the fabric of the speaker's theme. Well, I'm not very good at that, as you can tell. So I'll just tell you a joke and we'll move on from there. Okay. So a newly graduated UI teacher gets a job in Boston, and he's hopelessly lost during his first week in residence. He's looking for a store recommended to him by a few friends, and he's completely confused as to how to follow the winding, illogical streets of Boston to find it. So he comes up to a very stately-looking woman, probably one of Boston's Brahmins, and asks, "Ma'am, would you be so kind as to tell me where Pierce's department store is located?" And she very kindly responds, "Young man, you go 2 blocks that way, turn right for 1 block, and it will be on your left. And by the way, in Boston, we pronounce that Purse's department store, not Pierce's." So he thanks her, and they begin walking away from each other when the woman turns around and calls the young teacher and says, "Dear boy, where are you from?" He responds proudly, "Well, ma'am, I'm from Iowa." She responds with some disappointment, "Young man, in Boston, we pronounce that Idaho." It's the last you'll laugh during this, okay? Over my now 43 years as a teacher, I've taught some 3,000 high school students, over 1,500 college students, and hundreds of in-service teachers. Over that course of time, my experiences have led me to more student funerals due to gang violence than I care to enumerate, stood up to students' weddings, been hospitalized in the intensive care unit of an old Soviet-type Armenian hospital during a State Department assignment for the university, and participated in teacher workshops at the foothills of the Himalayas. Those and many other experiences taught me a great deal about teaching and about students, especially teaching in and for a democratic society. So I'd like to share with you some accumulated thoughts as you enter the profession, a profession that will lead you to the greatest experiences imaginable and a life well worth living. Take them for what you wish, but know that you too will build a similar foundation upon which to reflect when all is said and all is done. Horace Mann, one of America's first pillars of progressive education, ended his last public statement before his death when he closed the commencement address at Antioch College with the following: "Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity." That's our mission as teachers, and here's why I believe that. My own beliefs about teaching are founded upon the vital assumption that education deals with the key element of citizenship development for the present and for the future of our students' lives. No matter who or what we teach, each of us must define what indeed is an effective citizen. To me, an effective citizen is someone who acts in an intellectually responsible manner as a member of a democratic, self-governing, and civil society. In order to act intellectually responsible, a citizen has one core duty: to suspend his or her beliefs in the face of our society's difficulties in order to solve these difficulties with the broadest range of the common good, as well as each individual in mind. These solutions must be based on the best available evidence given to us by all the avenues of knowledge pursued by humankind. When this is done, and when every person's voice contributes to the tentative solution, and when this is done in the context of what American philosopher John Dewey termed associated living, where people in their chosen affiliated group, not some totalitarian authority, are the rule, we have democracy and civil society, and that's where you come in. To carry out this goal, we as teachers must know our content so well that we can help our students to gain the information needed and teach them to go beyond that information as they become decision makers in our society. This requires constant professional development in the content areas because human beings don't make decisions thinking of only one subject at a time, but in the more global setting known as our minds, where all of our knowledge and experiences help us to live our lives. Additionally, we must continue to learn about and test in our classrooms and then reflect upon and adjust when needed, ever-changing ideas on teaching and learning. We must do so in order to constantly improve our ability to address the shifting needs of our students as individual learners with their unique personal problems and promises. These are our students who, like us, live in a shared community and who hail from varied cultural backgrounds and a variety of gendered experiences. This philosophy lays the foundation for certain beliefs about classroom practice. I believe that teachers in society should both socialize and counter-socialize students into thinking about what is, but also what ought to be. We can do this by helping them to understand, to rethink, and to challenge their present situation. In so doing, we help to develop in following generations a democratic habit of mind that considers all social beliefs without unquestioned acceptance of any one of those beliefs. Just a couple of final thoughts based on this philosophy of teaching. The ideal of education in a democratic society, where our society should find its finest hour, is when mind meets mind in the classroom and beyond. 3 key words underpin this position. They are courage, responsibility, and honesty. Courage to take risks, responsibility for the consequences of those risks, and being intellectually honest with our students. I believe that in such a classroom, you will offer your students the very best of which we can conceive for our society and for our culture. Out of this democratic habit of mind toward our chosen profession, we can fulfill Horace Mann's wish for us to win that victory for humanity by helping our students to carry on the spirit of an open society based on the free exchange of ideas and civil liberty as they move toward the resolution of conflicts, problems, and issues on personal, national, and global scales. In so doing, we can ensure the democratic nature of our culture as described earlier, long after you and I are gone. That, my friends, is why teaching is the most noble and most important profession within the human condition. You soon will be graduates of one of America's premier teacher education programs. The University of Iowa College of Education ranks #1 in the state. The elementary education program ranks in the top 6% in the nation. And the secondary education program ranks in the top 2% in the nation. You will leave here and walk in the shadows of no one, because you have been taught by the people sitting behind me who define the gold standard in teacher education. And now you are the best our country has to offer for the education of generations to come. For these reasons, you are entering the ranks of the immortals, because your life with your students, in other words, what you teach and how you teach it, if taught well, will be relived for countless generations as your students grow up, interpret what they've learned with you, pass it on to the next generation, and the endless progressive cycle continues. I wish you the best of success in your careers. Thank you again. And to echo Dr. Chung, don't forget, once a Hawkeye, always a Hawkeye everywhere, and it is pronounced Iowa. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. It's now my pleasure to introduce our student speaker, Carrie Borchert. Carrie, a lifelong Hawkeye, graduated from her first tour at the University of Iowa in 2009 with a bachelor's in history and a minor in art history. She then spent from 2009 to 2011 pursuing a master's degree in museum studies from Western Illinois University and working for various museums in the Quad Cities. Somewhere between living in France, working various jobs, and then the birth of her first of 2 children, she decided it wasn't too late to pursue a dream she'd put on the back burner in 2006. She started the education program at the University of Iowa for her second tour in 2015. In the back of her mind, she's always wanted to be an educator. From playing school as a child to participating in DMAC education classes in high school, she felt that was her ultimate path in life. In her time at the University of Iowa studying education, she's enjoyed participating in book club, giving campus parking advice to her younger colleagues, and substitute teaching for the Iowa City School District. In the spring, she'll be finishing some endorsement coursework and finally chasing after her lifelong career as an educator here in Iowa City. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podium our December 2018 student speaker, Carrie Borchert.
Hello. I'm going to attempt to follow these 2 awesome speakers and see if I have any last advice to give you, but it's kind of hard to do because they were awesome. Thank you, and as just said now, I'm Carrie Borchert. I want to start off by saying thank you to the faculty members in the College of Education for nominating me to have this honor. While I thought it was pretty crazy at first, I appreciate being able to tell my story and give my fellow educators some lasted mom advice. Mom advice, yeah, you guys are used to that from me. Before we part ways, since I received that email, I've been trying to figure out exactly why I was nominated. I've always been an average student, but my best educated guess was that it had something to do with my passion for education, which I was never quiet about in class, and why I would hit pause on life and go back to school. After all, I was the one in spring of 2017 who wandered the halls of the Lindquist Center with a giant pregnant belly. My son was born at almost 10 pounds early that summer, so I definitely stood out like a sore thumb. To my fellow graduates, congratulations are in order. I know that many of you have spent countless hours in the Lindquist Center, battling parking on campus, staying out way too late at night sometimes, and have spent also a considerable amount of time dedicating long hours to schools around the Iowa City area. As a parent of an Iowa City student, I thank you for your volunteer hours. Our teachers need the help. I'd also like to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for always giving me the benefit of the doubt in group work, hanging out with me and my little kids, and catching me up on stuff when I was absent. Many of you have babysat for us, and I'm thankful for the lifelong friends that I've made while obtaining my teaching degree. I also have to thank my husband of almost 10 years, Nick, for without his support, both personally and professionally, I wouldn't be standing here today. While he's been making money for most of our marriage, I've been costing money. So I promise, honey, that I'm headed to the job market this spring. Lastly, I need to give a firm thank you to my family and friends, and especially our parents. They have spent a lot of hours on the road between here and Ankeny, where I'm from, watching our kids for hours on end so that my husband and I could both work on our degrees. And I'm beyond grateful for it. I wouldn't be standing here today without my excellent support system. As I mentioned, I feel humbled to be able to tell my story and why my pregnant self wandered the halls in 2017. I've always wanted to be an educator. My mom bought me a couple of old student desks and an old chalkboard when I was young. I had a school set up in my basement, and my poor younger brother dealt with pointless, stupid worksheets for hours on end in addition to actual school. I took the Intro to Education class during my senior year at Ankeny High School in 2005. I had many excellent teachers and mentors that I am now Facebook friends with, recommending that I become a teacher. I headed to the University of Iowa for the first time in 2006 for a degree in elementary education. Life happened. I didn't apply to the program, partly because I wasn't ready for the commitment. I instead enrolled in graduate school at Western Illinois University and pursued a Master's of Arts degree in Museum Studies. I worked in the education department at the Figge Art Museum for a short time, and then Nick and I spent a lovely year traveling abroad and living in France. We returned to Iowa City for Nick to pursue graduate school, and I had 3 different careers in 5 years. None of them stuck. They were not fulfilling what I needed. I had regrets about not becoming a teacher when I had the chance before. In the fall of 2014, Nick was waffling with a future career. I was that annoying, pushy wife that urged him to check out secondary education because I thought he'd be good at it. I was right. He entered the program shortly after, and well, a year later, I was headed back to school too in the fall of 2015, partly out of jealousy. Seriously, I saw how awesome he was doing, enjoying practicum, finding that purpose in life, and what a great program he was a part of. I wanted that too. I had some reservations. We had a 2-year-old daughter when I started back. I was worried about how hard the program would be as a non-traditional student. My worries were totally unfounded when I was met with nothing but compassion and grace from the staff and the faculty at the University of Iowa College of Education. Instead of failing me out when I'd miss a deadline, I was simply given empathy and an extension. Never once was I made to feel like I didn't belong or that I couldn't become a talented educator like my 20-year-old peers. It was hard, but there was never a moment where I thought my dream was unachievable in this program. To all the parents in the crowd, pat yourselves on the back, and congrats to you too. Parenting is hard. Sending your kids to college is hard. Also, you're welcome. I sometimes drove them crazy in a mom sort of way on campus. I distinctly remember telling a few of my college children to chill out with exams, papers, and assignments. I had to remind them that one tiny quiz wouldn't have that much of an impact on their grades. I also helped them find the parking office, where it was located, and it's hidden on campus, so it's hard to find, and told them to stay home if they were sick. You really can't function well if you're throwing up, honestly. There are a few reasons I went back for education in 2015. In addition to being totally jealous of Nick, I truly believe that teachers have the greatest influence in the world. You truly have the opportunity to change the world one mind at a time. Children are symbols of hope. This is something that I tried to remind myself of this past semester as I student taught. Student teaching is tough. It was a rough semester. And even though I felt I was faltering, I felt like my work was meaningful. Keep that in mind as you head into the field and into that first year. Those kids look up to you. They appreciate you. And I could speak on this for hours, but we've got dinner reservations, so I'm going to leave you at that. As you head out into the field, I'm going to take my mom hat off and instead speak at you as a colleague. First of all, remember what you can only control what goes on inside of the school, meaning that you cannot change what a student is experiencing at home. Build those relationships. I had a tough student teaching semester, and I wanted to take them all home. Some of the students were experiencing some trauma, and I instantly wanted to make their lives better. I couldn't. My awesome cooperating teacher reminded me of this on a regular basis, that student might be giving you a hard time because they are having a hard time. There's a difference. If you have a solid relationship with that student, it'll make school less hard for them and teaching much easier for you. You can't control what goes on outside of school walls, but you can make the inside as positive as possible. Secondly, remember to practice self-care. Thank you for the seminar on that, Carrie. Spend time with those who you care about. My son, who is 1, is the best at making me take a break. I had to play train some evenings, or the fit was inevitable and could be heard down the street. So if you're feeling down routinely, please seek help. If anyone ever tells you that teachers have it easy, they've obviously never taught. Feel free to roll your eyes and I will join you. The hours are long, but the rewards are endless. I've never felt so accomplished in my life as I did this semester when I saw how happy my students were about an assignment or how invested they were in a simple Google Slides project that I decided we would do last minute. Those proud little faces brought me so much joy. Being a teacher is truly rewarding, but you have the potential to work too much. Find that balance, find those positive moments and hold on to them, and please take care of yourselves. Lastly, this point It's kind of political. I'm asking each and every one of you to get political, not just for you, but for your students. You can't afford to ignore politics in this field. You're heading into a job that is mostly controlled by politics. Teacher autonomy is disappearing, curriculum is becoming robotic, and you all know that that's not right. Do your research, learn about the issues, and then go vote in every election that you can. The state and national legislatures control a lot of what we do as educators and the funding that our schools get. Don't forget about the local elections too, though, like the school board, who assists in the contract renewals every few years. Make sure you're voting for the people who will help teachers out, and remember that your students don't want large class sizes any more than you do. They don't want their funding cut for specials programming. They don't have a voice, so vote with yours. I also strongly recommend that you join a union. If you think it's too expensive, then you should try and do a close study of salaries in places like Wisconsin or Kansas, 2 states that did away with all union rights far before Iowa did. And compare the salaries with schools here. It's much more expensive to not have a union. They step up to the plate for you, so please try and support them if you can. You've endured and succeeded in a hard program, boy do I know. Being a non-traditional student hasn't been easy, and I'm nowhere close to being a perfect educator. I have a lot of improvements to make, but that's part of the beauty of it. I won't give up, so you shouldn't either. Teachers should be constantly learning and growing professionally, and they don't make it easy here to get a license. A TPA, am I right? Sorry, Carrie. But to be a teacher today, you need grit. You need resilience, determination, and creative thinking skills. You need to be able to take a boring lesson out of a book and make it amazing. And I personally think that Iowa did an awesome job at training us to do this. And so, fellow undergraduates, I give you another round of congratulations. I'm so proud of every single one of you. Please pat yourselves on the back. Please take care of yourselves, not just for your long-term health, but for your students as well. A happy teacher is a rock star teacher. Don't forget to slow down, take it easy, travel, research, and grow. Keep in touch, and as my fabulous cooperating teacher would always tell our kids, please go forth and be awesome.
Thank you, Carrie. We are pleased to have with us for the conferring of degrees for the University of Iowa President Bruce Harreld. Please join me in welcoming him to the podium. Will the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts in Education with a major in elementary education please rise? President Harreld, these candidates, having completed all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Arts in Education, are recommended to you by the faculty of the College of Education for the conferring of this degree.
On recommendation of the faculty of the College of Education and the authority vested in me by the Board of Regents, State of Iowa, I confer on each of you the degree Bachelor of Arts in Education as qualified and designated. Congratulations.
The turning of the tassel is the tradition of gesture by which each student signifies passage from degree candidate to graduate. Please mark your new status as graduates of the University of Iowa and the College of Education by moving your tassel from the right to the left. You better get that right or she'll have to start over. Thank you, graduates. Please be seated. Now I would like to invite Associate Dean Nancy Languth back to the podium.
I have the honor of not only sharing with you and celebrating the accomplishment of our college's BA with major in elementary education graduates, but also in recognition of our teacher candidates who have completed their required coursework to be recommended for state licensure to teach in their respective content areas. At this time, will the Bachelor of Arts in Education graduates with major in elementary education, followed by teacher candidates being recommended for licensure in secondary education program areas, please come forward to receive formal recognition.
Carrie Borchert. Tricia Notermann. Joree Miller. Jayme Blaser. Colleen Schuler. Madeline Westerhoff. Taylor Sloan. Abby Michaelis. Ariel Mobley. Congratulations. Andrea Millard. Isabella Feller. Kaitlin Brooks. Courtney Carley. Clancy Haase. Gabrielle Chelette. Julia Herman. Megan Eckland. Amber Erickson. Amber Linnenkamp. Ashlyn Schoonover. Chloe Kenworthy. Lucy Moore. Anne Rude. Katharine Gerdes. Michelle Irwin. Alyssa Gorkow. Claire Honsey. Taylor Foley. Molly Cornelison. Bryn Schwab. Claire Henry. Please join me in congratulating the elementary education graduates. Professor Baldus will now introduce the graduates completing the teacher education program in art education.
Amy Davis. Please join me in congratulating those who have completed the art education program. There are two. Professor Schultz will now introduce the graduates completing the teacher education program in English education.
Carly Algitz. Abigail Toureene. Megan Miller. Dean Becaris. Drew Arducer. Brianna Schroeder Kelly. Lanie Snyder. Please join me in congratulating those who've completed the English education program. Professor Wesley now will introduce the graduates completing the teacher ed program in foreign language education.
Alyssa Pragovich. Please join me in congratulating Alyssa, who has completed the foreign language education program. And others who could not be here. Professor Estapa will now introduce the graduates completing the teacher education program in mathematics education.
Arianna Bentel. Please join me in congratulating those who have completed the math education program. Professor Monternack will now introduce the graduates completing the teacher education program in music education.
Rachel Anderson. Chloe Blick. Alexander Toth. Devin Cummings. April Donlin. Tremere Hill. Noah Perkins. Rachel Hernandez. Please join me in congratulating those who have completed the music education program. Professor Neal will now introduce the graduates completing the teacher education program in science education.
Shannon Ray Kent. Haley Hansen Bugos. Anna Elizabeth Fox. Kyle Kerger. Please join me in congratulating those who have completed the science education program. Professor Hammett will now introduce the graduates completing the teacher education program in social studies.
Thank you, Ted. John Kaler. Nicholas Van Horn. Luke Jansen. Justin Bowers. Jessica Klein. Amber Egan. And Angela Schmiederer. Please join me in congratulating those who have completed the social studies education program. Professor Datchuk now will introduce the graduates completing the teacher education program in special education.
Thank you, Greg. Catherine Aziz. Please join me in congratulating those who've completed the special education program.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now call to the podium University of Iowa President Bruce Harold.
Well, as others have said multiple times today, this is a magnificent occasion. You've worked hard, you've earned every bit of this, but let me just also remind you of the obligation you've now taken on. First, you're Hawkeye. You're always going to be a Hawkeye. We know and trust you will represent us well. Secondly, you're taking on one of the highest and most important professions in our land, which is we're resting in your hands the future of the next generation. Wear that mantle well, do us proud, and always remember to come back and see us, because once a Hawkeye, always a Hawkeye. Congratulations.
I will. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I now call to the podium President Harold. I ask the University of Iowa candidates for certification to teach elementary and secondary education in the state of Iowa to please rise. President Harold, these candidates, as an integral part of their university experience, have completed professional studies in the field of education. The State of Iowa Department of Education recognizes the professional goals of these scholars and has empowered the University of Iowa to recommend these individuals for the teaching certification appropriate to their course of study.
The University of Iowa cooperates with the Iowa Department of Education in preparing students who will teach in elementary and secondary schools in our state, across our nation, and around the world. The University of Iowa takes great pride in fulfilling its charter mission to educate outstanding teachers. To our students who have chosen to enter the noble profession of teaching and who have met the requirements set by the College of Education in the state of Iowa, I recommend each of you on behalf of the University of Iowa to the Department of Education for certification as elementary and secondary teachers. My colleagues and I extend our heartiest congratulations.
You may be seated. Graduates, this weekend you will leave the College of Education to start new roles in your professional career as an educator. Being a teacher is a tremendous privilege, but it is also a huge, huge responsibility. Sometimes the going gets tough. How many of you at some point in the program felt like you weren't going to make it? It's okay, you're still going to graduate. And thought about quitting. There will be children in your classrooms who feel that same way. They can't make it. They feel like quitting. As Dr. Chung said, every child needs a champion. And you will be their champion. And those victories for humanity that Dr. Hammett talked about, those victories are the cumulative successes that occur because you've chosen to be that champion. I want you to know that you have our support, you have our confidence, and you also have our admiration. We're very proud of you and all that you've accomplished. We have very, very high expectations for you. And may the force be with you. Congratulations to each of you. I look forward, as you do, to all the things that lie ahead. Thank you for being a part of our Hawkeye family. We hope you'll stay a part of our Hawkeye family. Because once a Hawkeye, you passed your last test. Congratulations and best wishes to each of you. Please join me one final time in congratulating our graduates. We welcome you all to join us for a reception immediately following this ceremony in the Stanley Cafe, which is on the second floor of this building. We will be joined there by none other than Herky, and he will help us to celebrate this impressive accomplishment for all of our graduates today and their families. I kindly ask that the audience remain seated until the graduates, platform party, and faculty have exited, and we all look forward to seeing you in a few minutes at the reception. Thank you.